welcome to this week's episode of the Gold Hoops and God podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Guerra, and today I have an awesome guest. This is Lola Barraza, who's joining us. Yay!
Hello.
So, Lola is located here in Los Angeles. She is an esthetician and also does energy reading, which is super cool. And I'm really excited to talk to you today, Lola. Hi.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes, welcome, welcome. So, as usual, the first kind of topic that we dive into for my podcast is about culture because Latinas are so diverse, growing up in different places, different cities, different countries, like those are very unique experiences. And so I always like to ask people and ask my guests to kind of share their understanding of themselves, like how they see themselves, what identity markers they kind of lean towards, and all that kind of good stuff. So yes, I'm excited to hear from you.
So, I am 100% Mexicana, American. I know there's very different ways to say it. I did grow up Chicana. I grew up
Hmm.
in Los Angeles. As you know, there is a very big Mexican community, but I
Hmm.
always get asked, "You're not Mexican." And I'm like, "Why not?" Because I'm light skinned.
Mm.
And I always have to
Oh,
remind people that Mexicans come in different colors, we come in
yeah.
different shapes and sizes.
Hmm.
And so I always remind them the melanin didn't quite hit me, but we're a mixture of all. And so growing up in LA, it really opened me up because we are a petri dish of
Hmm.
cultures. So I grew
Totally.
up in the west side of LA, which
Hmm.
is predominantly Latinos, Black. The time I grew up in the 80s. So at the time, Culver
Ah,
City is not what a lot of people know as Culver City
today, right, right,
today,
right. Hmm.
correct.
Hmm.
Culver City is more, Beverly Hills, as you would
Gentrified,
say.
gentrified, hipstery. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally.
Exactly. And so I didn't, growing up, I really didn't see myself as like a Mexican power, like, Mexican, like raza. But as I
Right.
grew
Hmm.
older, I did really identify more,
Hmm.
with my Mexican roots. As a
Nice.
child, I would go to Mexico for the summer.
Oh,
And
cool.
so I always say that now, as I'm older, I got the best of both worlds, like being
Hmm.
American and being Mexican. And so you
Totally.
know how in the Selena movie the dad says,
Oh,
"I'm,"
yeah.
and I'm like, it's true. I'm not Mexican enough for the Mexicans, and I'm not American enough for the Americans.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and so I grew up, hanging around with so many different cultures that I identify with so many. Like, I grew up around Black people. So
Hmm.
the West Side gangster rap kicked in while my parents are listening to Vicente Fernandez, So it's like,
Yeah.
it's the best of both worlds, I always
NWA, the
say.
whole thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally. That's awesome. Yeah, it's so funny. Like people don't realize, I don't think, like how unique LA is because you cross a couple streets and it's a whole different world. Like the things that you see on TV, for example, like the Beverly Hills 90210, it's not that far from Watts and Compton when you think about it, right? Like
No,
all of this is happening, right? Like all of it's happening, all of it's simultaneously happening. And some of us, you know, don't always venture out into those other neighborhoods for different reasons, right? But it's all here. Like it is all here. It's all coexisting. It is a very unique place and space. So I love that you shared
correct.
that. And I completely resonate as far as like, so I grew up in Koreatown. Koreatown was not the cool, trendy, hip place to be when I grew up, right? Now, now everyone's like flocking to Koreatown because of the food and because of it's got a little bit more economical, housing a little bit, right? But that's fantastic. I'm glad that you have really come to like embrace your Mexican identity, Mexican American identity. That's so fantastic. And I agree, like that line from the Selena movie, I think it resonated with so many of us. Like so many people could feel that, very same sentiment of like, man, like where do I belong? Where do I belong? Because it's like both and, right? It's like I'm a little bit of this, I'm a little bit of that, but not enough of either. It's very interesting. It's fascinating. Identity is so fascinating.
It is
And
very fascinating
yeah.
because I also have my own suite in West Adams,
Oh, nice. I love it.
and I come from generations of small businesses, and
Hmm.
so the LA riots actually started on my birthday, and
Oh my gosh.
I was
Oh,
10
I
years
remember.
old.
I remember. Hmm.
I was 10 years old, not to give away my age, but I was 10 years old, not realizing what was going on. Like, I'm asking my
Hmm.
dad, like, hey,
Yeah.
are we going to go to Chuck E. Cheese? And he's like, do you not see our
No, mija,
cities
not today.
burning down?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that
It's so
resonated. And
true.
I think after that, I kind of realized, like, oh, there's different cultures. We knew
Yes.
we knew that Rodney King got beaten up, but we didn't know.
Yes.
Like, 10 years old, you're still a child. That
Right.
innocence.
Right. Yes,
So
the innocence. I remember the riots, and this is wild. So, as a kid, right, the things you remember. I have always loved Hello Kitty. I've always loved Sanrio. And there was a small, like, little store that had, I would call it the Hello Kitty store because that's what I knew it as, right? There was a small little store, a little boutique shop that had a lot of Hello Kitty Sanrio things really close to my parents' house. And my mom would take me, when I was growing up to get like erasers or pencils. And it was like such a treat. Well, I remember like seeing on the news that that store had gotten looted, busted in, like attacked and everything, like on the news, and the lady's like crying. I was like, no. As a kid, I was like, no, not the Hello Kitty store. I was so sad. I was so sad. But right, like as a kid, like that's how you see the world, right? That's how you see things. It's like, how it impacts you directly, right? Anyway, but I remember things were literally on fire. It really felt like a war zone. It was very, like, for folks who are too young to remember, like, it really felt like a war zone. It was very scary. It was serious stuff. And honestly, I feel like truly, like, some businesses never recovered. Some homes never recovered, families, they just couldn't bounce back after that impact. So
correct.
I totally remember. That's when you know you're an OG LA person.
Yeah. People, I always hear people talking negatively about LA, and I'm like, I think you're
Mm,
talking about the transplants, because us LA native people, let me tell you, we're cool.
yeah.
We come from
We
very
are.
humble beginnings. They
Yes.
see LA for what it is now, but
Yeah.
I'm like, you're going to Hollywood, you're going to all these different places. Like,
It's
go to East
different.
Los Angeles, go get some
Yes.
ceviche. Go
Yes.
to,
Exactly.
Portugal, go to all these different places
Yeah.
where the
Exactly.
tourists are not at.
Exactly. Right. Go to Downey, go to, Highland Park, drive around a little bit, mid city. Like you'll see a different side, and it's like you said, it's amazing. It's super cute. And ironically, people might not believe me, but when you start to go to the same, you start to go to the same stores and you see the same people who work there, the owners and things, you actually do kind of feel like a sense of community. As crazy and as busy as the city is, you do start to develop your own like sense of a small community, and it's so awesome. It's really beautiful.
West Adams, where my studio is located, actually, my parents have been there for 37 years. I've been there for
Wow.
6 years. And so I really, um, empower myself and put pride in myself that I'm really deep into the community. We do a
Awesome.
lot of self love. We do lotería
Hmm.
nights. We
Oh,
do what we
cute.
can to embrace the community while the area is being gentrified. It's really
Right.
important for me to keep the community part of West Adams,
I
because
love
it
it.
is changing. It is
Yeah.
changing. And so you want to, my I want to keep on growing of what my parents, that
Yeah.
generational wealth, that
Hmm.
generation of
It's
community
amazing.
is very important, because I feel like sometimes we lack that in
Yes.
our community space.
Totally. It can get lost. Absolutely. It can get lost. And it's true. Well, like with gentrification, things like that, people feel cut off, they feel pushed out, like they're priced out all the time. And
All the
so
time.
I really love that you are intentional about, creating community and creating community spaces and activities and things like that. That's so cool. That's
Very
great.
important. Very important
Mm-hmm.
to. I do remember when I used to go to Mexico with my grandmother. She would play loteria on Sundays,
Oh yeah.
and so so it's like a little piece of her still with us, because it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, when you hit the jackpot, you're like loteria, and so it's like,
So great.
you know, bringing that to other people that don't
Mm-hmm.
know the loteria or what loteria is. You know, you have
Yeah.
Asians, you have black people coming in, they're like, this is so amazing, while my
It's so
mom
fun.
makes birria tacos, you know. So it's
Oh
really like,
yes. Oh my gosh.
it's a really, like, it feels like a family, you
I
know.
love it. You
Family
have to let me
is
know when the next one is
invested.
because I will totally go. Oh my gosh.
Yes, we're actually planning one in the end of May, so
Yes,
I
I'm
hope to
there.
see
That's
you
so
there.
fun. I'm so there. I love it. So that is incredible. And I feel like there I feel like there's no coincidences in this world, honestly. So my grandmother, my mom's side of the family, we're from Guatemala on my mom's side. And growing up, one of the main ways in which I learned Spanish was playing loteria. Like literally, my grandma would play loteria with me and teach me, so actually, talk about pedagogy. She wouldn't use these words, but talk about teaching and pedagogy and things. Like she would use the little cards to show me and teach me and show me like how it's spelled and things like that and the pictures. I was like, that's so brilliant. And so it was fantastic for basic words. It was a lot of fun. It was really great. And that is a big reason why I learned Spanish is because I spent a lot of time while my mom was working, right? Two working parents always. Both of my parents have always worked. And I got to learn that. And now that I understand, right? Now that I understand like how loteria is such a staple, right? In Latinx culture and how important it is. And it really is a very cool bridge for different generations, to play grandparent, like, the playing grandparents, cousins, everybody hanging out, playing the game, having some food. It's so great. It's amazing. So
Yeah,
that's
I
so
I
cool.
don't
I
have
love it.
children. I don't have children, but my sister has children, and
Hmm.
the younger one, they're taking Spanish class, so
Hmm.
he actually helped me out, doing
Okay.
calling out the cards, and I
Oh,
can hear him,
cute.
how you're telling the story of how you learned Spanish that way, and
Yeah.
I hear him like
Yeah.
really trying, and I'm like, this is the next generation
It
of
is.
playing
Hmm.
loteria.
That's so cute. Oh, that's amazing. And actually, I think right now you may have seen this. There's a person who this gentleman, he created like loteria, like Millennial Loteria. Have you seen
Yes.
this?
There's also
Okay.
a
Okay.
Selena one, which I want to get my hands on.
Oh, that's great. That's so fun. I love that, right? I love that it's kind of being you know, uh given like a new energy, different iterations, different versions. It's so cool. I love it, love it. So let's see. It's really, really cool. Um as far as identity, because you kind of mentioned how you have embraced your Mexican identity a little bit more, as an adult. And I'm curious if there's something in particular that sparked that. Is there something that you can pinpoint, either an event or a time period, or perhaps something in school that kind of helped you embrace like your identity a little more?
Well, what I can think to back is I had a really bad accident when I turned 30. I fell off a
Oh,
horse,
oh
and
no.
when that happened, there was a lot of trauma in my life, like a lot of
Yeah.
trauma, and I was
Wow.
drinking a lot, and
Mm.
when I had that accident, my life turned upside down. They told me I was paralyzed. Just a
Oh
lot
my
of stuff
gosh.
that happened. And so I
Wow.
had to really, really reflect and really
Mm.
think about like who I am and what I
Ooh,
am.
yep, yep,
And
yep.
you know, I
Hmm.
really said I no longer want to be that person where I hide behind the shadows. And so I
Oh.
really want to embrace who I am. This
Hmm.
accident completely changed my life. It was a turning point. And I always tell
Total.
people,
Hmm.
I was asking a sign from God because I was going down the wrong path, and I knew I was going down the wrong path. And so I
Mm.
remember writing in a journal like 3 days before, like
Oh my
something
gosh.
has to change. And I actually had an accident. I got hit by a drunk driver 3 months prior to that. Total
I
the cars,
know.
everything. And I
Oh
hadn't
no.
learned my lesson. You know how they say God will send you
Oh
signs?
no. Oh no. Lola, are you
God
serious?
will send you signs until you
Until
hear.
you learn, until you figure it out. Oh
Yeah,
no.
and
Oh
I
my gosh.
figured it
That's
out.
intense. That is
Life,
intense. Oh my gosh.
life changed. I found
Wow.
my purpose, but I
Wow. Wow.
started
Wow.
really identifying with me. Like,
Who
what
am
made
I?
me? Who am
Yep.
I? I come
Yep.
from a lineage of women that didn't was never able to speak. And
Mm.
growing up, seeing your grandmother, seeing your mom, my mom taught me to always just speak up. She's a very opinionated. She's a
Mm.
Capricorn, so she's like, listen.
Ooh, my mom's a Capricorn too. Oh my
She's
gosh.
like, listen. But
I know how it goes. Yeah.
so I said,
Mhm.
I'm no longer going to hide behind the shadows, and B,
Mhm.
I'm no longer going to allow people to put me in this little box, being so, like,
Absolutely. Amen.
I always get mad when people say, oh, well, you're a white girl. No, I'm not a white girl. I didn't grow
No.
up being
No.
a white girl. So I
Right.
identify like I'm a Latina, and I am
Okay.
strong,
Okay.
and
So you started standing up for that identity and kind of
yeah,
embracing it,
exactly.
really living it, like leaning into it, como dicen. Good. That's amazing. That's so cool. I love it. I love it.
So yeah, so that accident
Wow.
really opened like
Woo.
the biggest doors. I was abusing alcohol for a while, and
Mm,
I actually was sober for 5 years. And like during that 5 years of sobriety, I learned
mm-hmm.
so much about myself, and that's when
Yes.
I like even more grew into like, wow, resilience. And
Yes.
that's what Latinos are. We're so
Yes.
resilient.
We
We
are.
my parents came here when they were 18 and 20, and
Mm-hmm.
to start from nothing, and something that they've grown. It reminds me of like, if my parents can do something, here I am given the opportunity. I really have to take this opportunity and grow as a person, and grow
Yeah.
with my business, and grow, and
Totally.
be, something,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yes. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I can resonate with so much of that. So I'm teaching right now, and I teach undergrads, and I recognize how and why they're so hard on themselves. And I know that a lot of it is that perhaps that unspoken pressure, right? In other words, insert country. My parents didn't come from El Salvador. My parents didn't come from Costa Rica. My parents didn't come from Syria for me to fail, right? I have to be
Exactly.
successful. I have to build something. I have to study. I have to become something great in my life. And it is a lot of pressure, it can be, right? It can be a lot of pressure, but it can also be seen as a tremendous gift. Like you said, we are resilient. Our families have gone through so many things. We individually have gone through so many things, and to be able to get back up again, like literally, to get up and keep
Literally.
going, right? Literally to get up and keep going. It's amazing. I hear stories about of course, like in life, you hear different stories from different people, uh, and the things that people go through you know it's amazing, the fact that they're still standing, the fact that they can still have a smile on their face. I'm like, oh my gosh, right? It's incredible. um and I totally got chills when you were describing, like, these wake up calls, right? These major moments and things like that. I mean, I would say for sure I've had several, of course, right? I've had several different things happen over the course of the years, but we'll say most recently, and perhaps the biggest yet, knock on wood. Hopefully that's, hopefully
Leave
I'm
it at
good
that.
for a long, long time. Yeah. Hopefully
Our
I'm
words
good
are
for a long time
powerful.
you know but yeah, like, so during the pandemic, and I've shared this before on the podcast, during the pandemic I had my own personal, like, breakdown. I um was hospitalized twice the summer of 2020, and long story short, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And for someone whose entire, like, identity and career was wrapped up in being a professor, being right? Book smart, whatever. Being in, in the classroom, book smart, writing, public speaking, da da da. And to have all of that like kind of like crash down, it was awful. It was awful. And so I totally know what you mean as far as like having to redefine like, okay, who am I? Right? Like what if, right? What if I'm not going to be able to be in the classroom anymore? Is my whole life like down the tubes? You know what I mean? Like, and so it took time. So I say this all to say like I can really, really resonate with that journey, right? Like the hard journey of like redefining oneself and picking up the basically like picking up the pieces and trying to make sense
Mhm.
of it to an extent, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It,
It's a lot.
yeah, it is a lot because looking back, because that was 12 years ago, looking back, I
Yeah.
always say, if that did not happen,
Hmm.
my life would be completely different. Completely
Yeah.
different. You know,
Exactly.
I was doing hair at the time, and
Mm,
I was like, oh, this is what I really want to do. Like, I really like it. But coming back from an accident, I couldn't stand. I couldn't cut
right.
straight. And I went back
Mm,
to medical. I worked in healthcare for so many years,
uh-huh.
and I went back and I
Hmm.
said, I'm kind of tired of like working for other people. And I said, I don't
Hmm.
know what I want to do. I wanted to be a life coach. And I was like, well, my life isn't together for me to be a life coach. And so I just prayed to God and I said, what is my purpose? What am I
Guidance.
here
Hmm.
for?
I love
Had a
it.
dream
Yeah.
about giving a facial, and
Oh,
I went to
wow.
go check out the school, and bam, I 3 days later I was signed up, started
Oh,
doing
that's so cool.
facials,
That's
started doing facials,
amazing.
and then the gift of energy reading just popped up. And as I do these
Wow.
facials, I'm like talking to people. I'm
Mm.
like, hey, like, are you okay? Like, and they're like, yeah, why? I go, I feel like you have some trauma along here, along
It's,
your jaw.
energy is so real. Energy is
Energy
so
is
real.
real.
People don't get
It
it. You
is
know what I
so
mean? Like people don't
real.
understand. Like oh man. Like we'll for sure, perhaps off the recording podcast, but for real, like the energy thing is so real. Like I feel, yeah, it's so interesting. Like how those gifts, yeah, it's true. Like those gifts develop, we can say, or perhaps, I mean, certainly they're always there, right? Certainly we all have those gifts, that
Correct.
intuition, that ability. It's like in there, almost like dormant, I think. And then it's
That
fascinating
point.
how it starts like activating, or you start like listening. You're like, oh, wait a minute, like
Mhm.
I'm feeling something here, and that's super cool. I love it. So speaking of energy healing, that really ties so nicely in terms of this question, right? This question of like spirituality and or religion, right? So I'm curious to hear from you, Lola, what your experience has been in terms of like that part of your life.
Okay. So going back to the accident,
Mm,
I had already had a relationship with God. And I always
mm-hmm,
say God very loosely because I
mm-hmm.
believe in a higher power. I grew up Catholic.
Okay. Mm-hmm,
I think I went up to catechism where,
mm-hmm,
and so I didn't understand too much of the Catholic faith. Um,
mm,
I actually blocked a lot of that out of my mind. I'm not sure why. My
mm.
parents, we would go to Saturday school, and I'm like,
Oh
gosh,
yeah.
this is so boring. Like, why am I here? Like, well, literally, like, why am I here? And,
It's
in
yeah.
being in church, it was like sad. It was like I was scared to do anything because God was going to do something bad.
Punishment. Hmm.
They
Yeah.
made it seem like if you do something bad, God is going to throw thunder on you, and you're
Yes.
going
Yes.
to, and so I said, I
Yep.
totally like said, you know what, I don't want anything to
I'm
do
good.
with this. my
Yeah.
my morals
Totally.
my morals don't align with this, because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you'll go to church, and in the front row you have ladies talking about people, and I'm like,
Right.
well,
Gossiping. Yeah.
like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
like, so I'm like, aren't we supposed to love thy neighbor? Aren't we supposed
Right.
to
Right.
help each other? And so as I grew older, I was a very negative person in my 20s. And
Mm.
our thoughts become a reality. So I was constantly talking bad
Totally.
about myself. And so I had a friend that introduced me to a non-denominational church, Agape, here in
Oh,
LA.
oh, I love it.
And their beliefs, they have Christian beliefs, but they're non-denominational. So they have so many
Mm-hmm.
different beliefs from different backgrounds.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
but it was like the law of attraction. You are what you
Mm,
speak, you are what you think. And so, as I grew older and the accident happened, I dug deeper into spirituality. I
mm-hmm.
I've never prayed so much in my life when I had my accident. Praying to God, like saying, I know I'm not paralyzed. I know that I can
Mm.
still walk. And I kept
Wow.
on telling the doctors, let me walk, let me walk. And they're like, no, you don't want to put any weight on your spinal cord. And then
Yeah.
they come in the next day and they said they did your x-rays wrong. And that's when I said, wow, God is a
It's
loving God.
it's
And
so real.
so
Yeah.
I grew
Amazing.
deeper into that spirituality. And
Mm.
I even prayed to La Virgen, and I said,
Oh.
when I get a chance, I'm gonna go to the cathedral in Mexico
Mm-hmm.
City. And I
Mm-hmm.
was finally
Totally.
able to go like 3 years
Oh,
ago and
that's so sweet.
give her my respects because she made a miracle.
The
And
miracle.
so
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely. Oh,
I believe in
it's
the
so
moon. I
beautiful.
believe in the stars. I
Yes.
believe in the law of attraction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I pray. I meditate. I talk to my angels. I talk to my
Mm-hmm.
spirit
Mm-hmm.
guides. So I feel like everything is all woven together.
It is. It is. It is. It is. Oh my gosh. I love it. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yay. Lola. No, you have no idea. So yeah, I'm so with you. I'm so with you. It's like and I always share this because I think it's so important for people to understand like many things can be true at once, right? Many things can be true at once. We don't have to like make these black and white decisions in terms of like what you hold close to your heart. And what do I mean by that? So I really appreciate so much of the different world religions. And when you look at it, there's so much similarity. When you start like digging deeper into like Buddhism, Hinduism, different things about Christianity, Judaism, etc. Like the main message is there, right? The main message there is there about love your neighbor, create peace in the world, right? That's the point across the board, right? And then I think what happens is that we get so caught up in the little minutia details of things, and it seems like everyone wants to be correct, right? They're like, but I want my group to be the only group, right? I want my crew to be number one in a weird way, right? And so anyway, that is to say, I also, right, I'm very much big into um meditation, chakra healing, angels. I love tarot, and I still go to Catholic church. I was at mass yesterday. When we're filming this, yesterday was Palm Sunday. I was at Catholic church, right? Why? Because all of those things are important to me, and I refuse to let anyone tell me that I'm not allowed, that I'm not able to do that, because people get a little weirded out. It's
They
it's
do.
interesting. They get a little
They do.
weirded
They
out
don't
on both
respect.
sides. Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
respect your opinion,
Right.
but they want you to respect theirs.
Yes, that happens for sure. Yeah, it definitely can be um difficult in that sense. Right, right, right. And you know what? Actually, that's been one of the coolest things about the podcast so far is hearing each person their story, right? Their story, and also like how they understand the world, how they understand religion and spirituality and things like that. And pretty much everyone's like, I do my thing, but it's okay for other people to do theirs. Like it's okay. And I think that's wonderful. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's what I
Oh,
tell.
that's so cool.
That's what I tell a lot of people. I respect what you believe in. You can believe that
Hmm.
a dog is God, and that's great.
Yeah.
Like I look at my dog and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're an angel. You were
Yes,
sent
my
from
little. I know.
you're
Yeah.
sent from
Yeah.
above. Like, who are you? Like, who brought you here?
Seriously.
God did.
Seriously. Seriously, yeah, I agree 1,000%. We have three dogs. We have a corgi and two of those little weenie dogs.
Uh-huh.
They're super sweet. And yeah, they're our little angels. They're super fun. They're the best. Like they're literally a gift, from God, from the creator, I think. So,
I always say angels on
yeah,
earth.
they are. They're super cute. Oh my gosh. I do want to ask you a little bit as far as energy healing, like how did you learn more about it, and how do you sort of practice it in your work? I'm super
That is a
curious.
great question. So I always knew that I had a gift. I would
Mm.
say something and it would happen. I remember being like 10 years old and being at my grandmother's house, and my grandfather appeared. He passed away before we were born. And I
Oh
remember
wow.
telling them, like, hey, there was this man. And they're like, who? And I'm all like, my grandfather. They're like, what did he look like? And they're like, you're a figment of your
Well, let's see what she
imagination.
says. Yeah.
And so I didn't pay much attention to it,
Hmm.
grew up. I've always been that party girl. And so
Uh-huh.
in my 20s, I didn't
Wow.
I didn't really like realize like that I had a gift until I was like 30, going back to the accident.
Mm.
And that just opened up like a world of like I would say something and then it would happen. And then I would like say, "Oh, somebody's pregnant." And then that person would be pregnant. And so then when I
Oh
started
my
doing the
gosh.
facials,
Mm.
I started feeling like these energy. And so
Oh my
like
gosh.
I lived with one of my close friends at the time. I think this was like in 2021, and
Hmm.
I started doing oracle cards. And so
Uh-huh.
like the oracle
Oh
cards,
my
like I
god.
would read the oracle cards, and I would go based on what the oracle card and just
Wow.
go based on that. And so as I started doing facials more, I
Hmm.
started to I started to feel. I started
Mm.
to like the vibe. I was like, wow.
Uh-huh.
So I had a new client, and we became friends. Like I told her her whole life. She's like, "How do you know all this?" I go,
How do you
"I'm
know
not
me?
sure. Don't ask me."
But
You
that's what
know,
you have to give. That's when you know it's real and it's true, when the person doesn't know you at all and they can tell you about yourself. Like that's when you know it's really real. Yeah. That's amazing. I
yeah.
love it.
And so I offer it as a standalone service, but I
Hmm.
also, I ask people, would you like an energy reading? Because some people get scared. Sometimes
Yes.
it's
They're
against a
uncomfortable.
religion, or
Mm.
so I have to respect that part. So
Hmm.
I have to shut up and be like, don't
Hmm.
say anything, because you have to
Yeah.
respect that part.
Totally.
And
Totally.
so the readings just came about themselves, and people started coming to me, and I'm just like, okay. I myself have to accept my gift
Hmm.
and not be
Right.
scared. I was really scared at the
Right.
beginning because I'm like, what is
Yes.
this?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what's going on? And so I have my own healer. She's in Tijuana, and
Oh.
she's the
Hmm.
one that has really really opened up like the third eye and the chakra. So I go with her
Hmm.
we do telephone once a month,
Hmm.
where she just
Wow.
clears me because there's so much energy coming through. And
Yes.
she's the one that totally like has shifted everything around for me. So if it wasn't for her, I think I would still
Mm.
be doing the energy readings,
Hmm.
but I wouldn't know how to cleanse myself of the energy, because
Uh-huh.
sometimes I'll come home.
Super important. Yeah.
Sometimes I come home and I'm like, why am I so tired? Why am I
Mm-hmm.
mad?
It's other
Why
people's
am I
energy. Yeah.
depressed? And it's other
Yeah.
people's energy. I'm like, this is not me, because I'm a pretty happy go lucky person. And if I'm
Mm-hmm.
like just get mad easily, I'm like, this is not my
Mm-hmm.
energy, because I've cleared a lot of anger from, I've healed a lot of my anger. I've
Mm.
healed a lot of negativity on my end.
Mm-hmm.
So she has to
Mm-hmm.
clear me. So she's shown me how to like return their energy, which is really
Mm-hmm.
important just as an energy
Mm-hmm.
reader or healer.
Totally. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, it's so true. Like as I've learned more about like the power of energy, the power of manifestation, your thoughts, all those things, like I'm always wear something for protection. Like I'm either wearing an evil eye or a bracelet or something, like something for protection. Because it's true. Like the more and more I'm like I can feel it. I can feel it when someone has bad vibes, bad energy, for no reason, things like that. I'm like, "Oh, like I can't." And even spaces. I mean, even spaces like you walk into a store or you walk into a home, I'm like,
Hmm.
oh no, like there's something happening here that I don't want to get into. And again, like I think as you were sharing, it's 1,000% true. Like spiritual hygiene, like you have to also have like that spiritual hygiene where you cleanse. People use different things, of course, like crystals, salt baths. People will do things with herbs to kind of cleanse or agua florida, things like that. If you know, you know, like they say.
We know.
Yeah, that's so cool. Oh,
Yeah,
I
it's
love it. This is amazing.
yeah, it's really important. I always tell people it's really important to check out and scope out the energy. I walk into a room and people say, "Why are you so quiet?" And I'm like, "I'm scoping out the energy. I want to see if I even
Hmm.
want to
To
interact
be
with this
here.
person
Yeah,
because people are
exactly.
energy leeches, and you
Yes,
have to
yes,
I
yes.
always tell my clients, always protect yourself. Like imagine this violet light, you're a bubble,
Mm-hmm.
so any
Mm-hmm.
negative energy can bounce off of you,
Awesome.
because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
especially right now times are very
Oh,
like people are very heightened and we have a lot of people walking
yes.
unhealed.
Yes. So many.
And
So many. Yeah.
they're taking out their problems out on you, and we
Everybody
tend to
else. Hmm.
take that personally when it's like,
Yeah.
no mama, it's not about you, it's about that person. Don't ever take anything personal.
It's so true. You can feel it even in the street. Like for example, like road rage, like unwarranted, no reason. People are just on one. They're just pissed off,
Yes.
racing. And it's dangerous. That's the thing is like it's dangerous. Like you can literally run someone over, mess up. Like anyway, um, and I think it's a lot of that. Like we're saying, that unhealed energy. People are struggling in a lot of different ways, but it's like they're not addressing it. I think like they're not actually addressing it, and that's unfortunate. So
It's very
yeah,
unfortunate. Even
yeah.
I always tell people, even in dating,
Oh.
you have,
Woo.
I'm single by choice because there's a lot of unhealed human beings
Certainly.
that
Yep.
want you to heal them, yet they don't want to do
Fix
the
me.
work.
Hmm. No.
Like, no,
No.
fix
No.
yourself. Like, I will be
No. No.
along
No.
the road with you, but honey, I've done my own work.
No.
It's time for you to do your work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And unfortunately, a lot of people think that jumping into a relationship is going to fix things for them. It's a distraction, okay? It's a distraction from whatever else is happening, whatever healing needs to happen. And it's not fair. But in heterosexual relationships, there's so many men, unfortunately, that just take advantage. Like they just take advantage of a good-hearted woman, that if
Yes.
they come across. And then people wonder, like, why is she so bitter? Why is she so hurt? Why is she so well, like you come across you get burned, right? You get burned so many times and it gets exhausting. And I think
Yes.
the healthiest thing to do is to take a break from it, right? I'd be like, you know what? I need to go work on me. I need to focus on me, and that's what I'm going to do, because otherwise I think we're like caught in this like this vicious
Cycle.
cycle, this vicious loop. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And it's not doing anybody any good. Like it's really
No.
not helping anyone. So, yeah, it's incredible, um the topic of dating. And I know tons of people that have met their partners, right? Like be it boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever, through online dating, right? Through the apps, et cetera, et cetera. And that's all great and that's wonderful. However, I do feel like it has created some other issues. The apps, like the dating apps have created some other issues. It's almost like this and I've heard other like what's it called? I've heard therapists talk about this, that it's almost like the illusion of choice, right? This illusion that we have like 500
Yes.
people to choose from, and oh my god, like if I don't like her on Saturday, I can go find her like him on Sunday, and
It's instant
that kind of thing.
gratification.
Instant gratification, right? And it's like, no, man, like this is not it's not the way. Yeah.
I was actually addicted to the apps, for some
Yeah.
moment where it gave
Yeah.
me external validation. I used to be very
A thousand
vain.
percent. A thousand
I
percent.
used to be
Oh,
so
it's a
vain,
great, I
like,
mean,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, for we call it like hookup culture. For that, it's incredible. Let's be
Yeah.
honest, right? Like you can like I can be a little blunt, a little vulgar. I'm like, it's like ordering up takeout. You know what I mean? It's like we can order somebody up in a couple hours. Here we go. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. And so many of us, right? I think many of us have gone through that, right? We've gone through that experience, that phase, and then we ultimately usually we get to that point of burnout or
Me.
the light bulb moment, right? Whatever you want to call it, right? Burnout, light bulb moment, something happens and you're like, hold up. Like let me reassess the situation here.
Yeah.
um but I
I,
think it's part, honestly, like I think it is something that so many of us are navigating, right? We're facing it, we're navigating it. It's part of modern life, right? In 2025, it's part of our modern romantic scene, whatever. And there it is, like it's fascinating. Yeah.
it's part of our lives, and I decided to tap out. And if
Yeah.
I meet someone amazing and great, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But I also remind people, you know, for you to find somebody to love you, you really have to have that self love.
A
And
thousand percent. Mm-hmm.
and so I had to focus on myself like
Mm-hmm.
100%, because how do I expect someone to love me when I don't
Mm-hmm.
love myself? Am
Totally.
I always say, would I date myself? And I say,
Mm,
yeah, but that's at the
yes.
surface level. Now, as a healed individual, I'm like, absolutely. So,
Mm-hmm.
energy attracts energy. So, if I
Totally. Yeah.
attract, if I attract this amazing human being, then that's
Yeah.
amazing. But I'm also not going to make it my priority, because I have such an amazing life outside of that
Yes.
person.
Yes. Yes. I'm 1,000% with you. So like what speaking of faith and uh, reflection, prayer, journaling, all the rest, what I realized is that for me, I am fairly certain it's going to happen in an organic way. I have tried all the apps under the sun,
Same girl,
over the years,
same.
right? Over the years, right? Over the years, I've done the speed dating, all the apps under the sun, the paid apps, this and that, all the right. So I'm like, no, no. I kind of think God is telling me to focus on yourself, right? Focus on myself, do what I have to do, right? My mission on this planet at this time, right? And the right person will find me, And again, this is utterly placing that trust, right? Utterly placing that trust and belief and faith in something bigger than me, right?
Correct.
In the higher power creator,
Correct.
to say that what's for you will not miss you. When the timing is right, the timing is right. It might not, and this is the hard part. God's timing may not be my little calendar timing, right? Because again, like I'm turning 43 very soon, and
Same.
the majority, really, oh my gosh, that's awesome. The majority of my friends, of course, right? They're married or engaged or something, and it's I think it's normal and human to start looking around and being like, hey,
¿Qué
like
pasó conmigo?
what about
Oye.
me, right? I'm pretty true. And this is not meant to be in an egoic way, but like I'm like, hey, I'm pretty awesome, like where's my guy, I think it's completely human. And uh and over and over again, I think the message is, girl, you gotta be patient. I truly feel like one of my number one lessons in this lifetime is patience.
Hey,
Really, that has been like one of the number one things God has been trying to teach me for a very long time.
I always like to use this term in anything in life. rejection is God's protection.
A thousand
I
percent.
I
A thousand
dated
percent.
a lot of men that I just dated them because surface level they looked nice. They were pretty to look
Good on
at.
paper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were,
Yeah.
like, oh, you're cute. Let me date
They're
you.
hot. They're good looking. Yeah.
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 And as I got
Yeah.
older, I realized,
We've
like,
been there, girl. We all been there.
and as I got
Yeah.
older, I'm like, I need substance. I need someone
Yeah.
to be on my level as a
Yes.
conversationalist because I
Yes.
enjoy conversation. I want to know what makes you happy. What's your
Mm-hmm.
passion? What helps you get up in the morning?
Your
And
heart, your soul, something. Yeah. Something
exactly.
deeper.
Like,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
going back to the dating apps, it's like the same question. How are you? What do
Oh.
you do? And I'm like,
Oh.
and like I had my friend go through my list, and I don't know how many men I had, and she's like, "Girl, you have like over 150 matches." And like, "Yeah, but they
Matches. Yeah.
bore me." She's like, "But you
Yes.
also." She's like, "You also have to do the work." I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm not. My back is gonna hurt from carrying all these conversations."
You know what? I'm so glad you said that because it's true. Like, and this has been another lesson. Like, we as when we as women start basically chasing them or doing all the work, planning the dinner, bringing this, bringing that, doing that, cleaning the house for them. No, like it never works out well
No,
for us. It never
never.
works out well for us. And so again, like it's another part of like the wake up call is like, no, no, no. If he's interested, he needs to seek me out. They used to call it courting. They used to call it courting.
Yes,
You
we
know, it
still
was a
like
different
that.
thing. Yeah, like take me, wine and dine me at least, like take me out, bring me some flowers, like
Yeah.
put a little bit of effort. Yeah, yeah,
I always say, "Oh yeah," like I'm all about, like, going half. I'm all about, you know,
yeah,
equal, but at the same
sure,
time, I'm a woman and I'm a very feminine woman. And I
right.
like to have my door open. I like my man to walk on the side of the
The
street.
caballero,
Yes,
yeah,
I like to
hmm
be protected because
hmm
that's how my father was.
yeah,
Well, that's how my
see,
father is. My
yeah,
father,
yeah,
always protected me. He always
that's great.
hung up. He does, when I need something done, there he is doing it for me. And so,
Oh,
but I also grew up with my mother being working. So it's like
yeah,
I believe in a partnership. I don't believe in, like, okay, well, I'm going to
totally,
cook and clean and take care of the kids while I work and do this on all that. But
right.
al mismo tiempo, like,
Mm-hmm,
I still want to be courted. I still want to be
mm-hmm.
told that I look beautiful, like,
Of
hey,
course, yeah, we
even though
do,
I'm
we
getting ready for
do. Mm-hmm.
myself, I want you to
Yeah.
acknowledge that I'm a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful woman.
Right, right, exactly, and it should be right, and it should be like it should be an honor, right? It should be an honor to enjoy the company of someone, to take them out and things like that. Like truly, I feel like people are just disrespectful now. People disrespect each other so bad. Like and again, I would say on both sides, right? Like men and
Yes.
women, totally like throwing shade, rude to each other, cutting them off, this and that, like going off. It's like,
Who raised
why be
you?
like that? No, no, no. Why be like that? It's very sad. Like I think it goes back to the wounding, right? The wounding, unhealed issues.
Inner child.
Yeah.
It's a lot of inner child
Yes. Inner child, exactly, which is a perfect segue to
work.
our uh to our um to our last topic or question today. This has been super fun, by the way. This is
Thank
amazing,
you.
Lola.
I
It's
enjoy
so
this.
good. Yay! So yeah, thinking back to the inner child, little Lola, if you will, what is some advice, right? Or you can pick whatever you can pick any like age range if you want to kind of speak to like teenage Lola, young adult Lola, little Lola. It's up to you. What advice would you give? What
I
advice would you give her?
little Lola, man, she was a wild one. She was a little rambunctious. I'm a middle child, so I always say I do have middle
um,
child syndrome. Any type of
oh my
attention was
goodness.
great attention, I always say,
Oh
back in the day.
yeah.
Um I would tell her, you are enough.
Mm,
You are a shining star. Don't allow anybody to put you down. Because I grew up with a lot of negativity, telling me you're this, you're that. And so I believed it for a very
Mm,
long time. And so, 42-year-old Lola looking down at 10-year-old Lola, she's really
mm,
proud of herself. We've come a long way. So I would say don't dim your light. Hold space for yourself, and you can
mhm.
do whatever you want to be. If that's an astronaut, I always wanted to be a marine biologist. Not knowing what a
That's so
marine
cool.
biologist was, only because I love
Oh.
the ocean so much.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like growing up, I wasn't given the tools to
Mm,
to grow myself bigger and be bigger. And
mm-hmm.
so, I want to remind people, we're never too old to start over.
Yes.
We wake up the next day, and that's a new beginning already. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely, it doesn't matter what age you are, just keep on pushing. It's very important to believe in yourself. You don't need validation. I needed validation so much. As a little girl,
Mm.
me chuleaban, like, oh, you're so pretty, you're this
Oh.
and that. And
Yeah.
so I grew up needing that validation. And now,
Mm.
as a woman, it's like I have to tell, like, you're beautiful, I love you. It
From
doesn't
within.
matter what you look like, it doesn't matter
Right.
what size you are. So I think it's just that, holding yourself and
Mm-hmm.
loving yourself more. That's my advice to little me. you know
Beautiful. That is fantastic advice. Yes, like loving yourself. And it's true. I think that many of us, for different reasons, we struggle with that. We're taught by society to seek external validation, that we have to be told. And, you know, especially I think the attention of boys, right? That's a big for many of us, like, oh my God, the boys, oh, you have a boyfriend? Oh my God, I have a boyfriend. It's a thing, right? Like it's a totally a thing. And so getting that props, and then if we're single or we feel like the ugly duckling, it's a mess, right? Like it's like, oh, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm ugly, I'm this, I'm that, etc. And it's not true, right? Like it's not it's not true. And the craziest thing that I realized, a lot of the girls who, quote unquote, we would say they could be models, right? They look as,
Aesthetically pleasing.
stereotypically beautiful, right? Aesthetically pleasing, stereotypically beautiful. They could be on a movie or whatever. They had their own problems.
Oh
Like they
yeah.
also had other problems.
Oh
They,
yeah.
be it an eating disorder, be it this, there's stuff happening at home. They had their own issues too. We didn't know it, right? Like they might not have talked about it, but everyone's got, everyone is working on something. I swear, like everyone's working on something, healing something. We are human, uh, and it's okay. It's okay that to realize. I think that's so beautifully said, what you had shared, that to realize like you are enough. You are as you are, right? Like as you are, flaws and all, you are enough. It's okay. Like you are enough. Love yourself this moment today, it's a really important message. It's a really important lesson. So, oh my gosh. This was so good. Thank you, Lola,
Thank
for joining
you.
me. Oh my gosh, I love this episode so much. It's super fun. So, folks who are listening, who are joining me and Lola today, this is again the Gold Hoops and God podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Guerra. I will make sure to pin Lola's information on social media in the show notes. And don't forget that the episodes are available every Wednesday. So, wherever you listen to your podcast, so that can be Spotify, Apple, iHeart, and all the rest. And then the video for YouTube is always available on Wednesdays at 1:11 Pacific time, where you can watch the conversation on YouTube. All right. Thank you so much, Lola.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, this was awesome. Thank you. Bye.